It's a Superbird, guys. Let's take a look at it. Yes, guys, a 1970 Plymouth Superbird. You guys just saw this on Hoovie's Garage, where he introduced the car, and then also he showed what was all wrong with it, with me inspecting the vehicle. But before we dive into the Superbird, it's time to introduce a new hire. You guys all know Magic Mike. You've heard of Magic Mike. That name's becoming pretty famous lately. But there's a new addition to the Omega family, Danielson.
Hi guys.
This is Daniel, and he's actually from Florida. Tell us about where you started off your mechanic training.
So pretty much fresh out of school, I started working at Ferrari. It was like a really lucky break that I had as an apprenticeship, and I got to stick on for about 3.5 years. It was a pretty good experience.
So which Ferrari dealership was it?
It was the dealership at Tampa Bay, so Palm Harbor area.
Palm Harbor Ferrari. Very good. And then you did some was it customization shops or race shops after that?
Yes, after that I worked at a shop doing a lot of race car stuff, you know, a lot of Hellcat builds and stuff like that, nitros, turbos, all that stuff. And then after that I moved on to a shop that was more like antique Porsche. Those were my teachers back at Ferrari, the ones that taught me everything that I know pretty much.
Very cool. So you've got to work on several Ferraris since you've been here, but now you get to work on something you've never seen before.
I've never seen one of these before.
A Superbird. So Daniel has gotten the privilege to work on the Superbird. You saw in Hoovie's previous video the things that were wrong with it, and today we're going to show you what Daniel has found. Some of them are pretty crazy. Let's go ahead and get started with that. So in the Hoovie's Garage video you guys saw there was a pretty good oil leak over here coming from an oil cooler. Let's take a look at that. So it ended up being an oil cooler, and what did you find, Daniel?
So I found that the lines were leaking. I just decided to tighten them a little bit. We are going to road test the car and see if we can get the temperatures up and see if the leak continues. If it does, then we'll proceed.
Yeah, so far it's been holding. It's not leaking anymore after you tighten the lines.
So far it's been holding, yes.
So those AN fittings were, one of them was just probably a little loose and had a very small seepage. Luckily, it doesn't seem like there's any major issues wrong with it, but we will definitely keep an eye on it as we road test it. The next thing is really strange. Some of you guys commented in Hoovie's video about the vacuum pumps, dual vacuum pumps. I don't know if they're Swedish-made vacuum pumps, are they?
I have no idea.
Okay. But anyways, these are to operate the headlights up and down, and there's two massive reservoirs. It's really overkill. A lot of guys you commented are like, what in the world? Why is there so much? What's going on here? And that's kind of what we're wondering. But here are the vacuum pumps. Two of them. One of them is really loud. The other one actually works. It's kind of loud. It's not too bad. Let me get these out of the way. Here's some of the lines that the vacuum pump or pumps were operating, and they go down here. You can see a big round black reservoir. And also, if you follow this line along the top over to here, it goes to another reservoir. And both of those reservoirs go to power the headlights. Now, I don't think, Daniel, I don't think that this came with those reservoirs. I don't think it even needs all that.
It is way too much for just headlights. You know, maybe it's a power assist for the brakes as well, but I didn't really see anything like that. There are some of the vacuum lines going inside the firewall, but I still got to do further inspection to see what they go to.
Right. We're going to order in a silent vacuum pump. We're going to put that in. It's going to be very quiet. We may just go ahead and use the reservoir since they're already there, or maybe just convert it to one of them, but it's really kind of overkill. It's kind of goofy. When Hoovie brought this thing in through the shop, it was so loud, like an electric fan or something. I could hear from a distance. I was like, that's not supposed to be what a Superbird sounds like. What in the world is that? And when we opened the hood and I heard the vacuum pump going crazy, like, wah! I was like, something is not right here. So we got those out. We're going to get that upgraded and take care of that issue. Next will be oil pressure. So we have the oil pressure sending unit off the back is actually very difficult to get to. If you take a look at this picture, you can actually see Daniel sitting in the engine bay. I know I definitely could not fit in there. I probably would break the quarter panel or something.
Yeah, no, it pays to be short sometimes. It really
Yes.
does.
One of the concerns that Hoovie had was at times it was only showing 20 psi, or he's really concerned that the readings are inaccurate. And if it's really low, and this is not showing that it's low, he's concerned that he doesn't want to destroy his engine. So I'll go ahead and have you start the engine, and we'll see what a true gauge shows. We have it hooked up in place of this. So we can see cold at idle, it's right at 70 psi. That's really good numbers. 60, 70, I could see that being at 70 when it's cold. One thing we're going to have to road test it and see once it warms up, does it drop really low? According to Hoovie, it's around 20, which would be okay, but he's afraid that it's anything below 20 is not registering. Is it truly 20 or is it not? And that's what we'll be road testing and finding out. But we do see now it does have 70 psi of oil pressure cold, so that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. And the next complaint that Hoovie had was his speedometer is not doing anything. It's not even registering at all. We got Daniel down there taking a look. He's actually looked this thing over. He checked the speedometer gear and everything on the transmission. What are you seeing under there, Daniel?
So I see that it's not hooked up.
What?
Yeah, they didn't hook it up.
So what do you see on the back of the speedometer? Just the threaded area where it receives the cable?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just open, there's nothing there?
There's nothing there. The cable's like laying right here.
Oh my goodness. Just hook it back up real quick and let's give it a shot.
Okay.
So that was it?
That was it.
You just screwed in the speedometer cable and it came alive.
Yeah, everything on the bottom looked good. Going into the transmission, the gear and everything was good. So it was pretty much just that. They just didn't bother to hook it up.
What kind of person sells a $100,000 Superbird and doesn't even hook up the speedometer?
Shady.
What the hell? Anyways, it's fixed. That's all working. So in Hoovie's video, we did check the horn, and it does work if we apply a power to the meep meep horn up there, but it wasn't working here. What did you find out here, Daniel?
I basically found it's just not hooked up. No cables run to the horn whatsoever. No power, no ground. It's just this little cable that is unhooked.
Wait a minute. This is another thing that's just not hooked up?
Nobody bothered to hook it up.
Well, I guess all we can do is hook it up.
Yep.
That's crazy. What? I'm baffled. That's ridiculous. Okay, so we'll get that solved by hooking it up, and we solved the speedometer by hooking it up. So good work, Daniel. We've actually got most of this stuff figured out. There's a few other things I'm going to show the viewers here, but that's amazing. It's amazing at the same time it's very depressing. Like, that's it. We're just not hooked up.
Yeah, when you expect to spend $100,000 and at least expect a good product at the end.
That's pretty crazy. Well, I think Magic Mike actually has a few things he's got for you to do. I don't want to keep him waiting, so why don't you go ahead and head on over there. We're going to take a look at this suspension.
Okay, take care.
The next issue that Tyler had is when he'd hit a bump or go over an undulation in the road, it would literally make banging noises, and the suspension basically wasn't even doing anything. It was so stiff, it was almost as if wherever there would be a shock absorber, they instead welded a steel rod. It was that stiff. He was like, something isn't adding up. It's not right here, Wizard. So we got to looking, and he did say before he purchased the vehicle, the front was very low, and the rear of the car was really high, kind of like they did in the 70s. My dad had a 71 Road Runner when he was in the military, and it was the same way. Giant tires in the back, little skinnies in the front, and the rear end's way up in the air. So that's basically what they had going on here. But Tyler really kind of wanted it even. He wanted it sitting even, so they did that for him by doing this. This already has Eibach or Ebach or however you pronounce it, springs on it, and you can see that they cranked it all the way to max. There aren't even any threads left. It's so stiff, the spring here, that the suspension doesn't even compress anymore. And when it does, it compresses maybe half an inch and goes right back up to full locked position inside of the shock body. So it's just bam, bam, bam every time he hits a bump. The problem is this shock is too short. If it were 2-3 inches longer, then we could set the preload on the springs to get the ride height he wants. Then it would have play up and play down for the suspension to move in decompression and in compression. Right now, there is no room to decompress. That's it. It's already there.
So, Car Wizard, why did they put that one in?
So when they went to level the front, they should have really put a different set of shocks on, but instead they just cranked it up really tight. In Hoovie's video, we lowered the car down and I watched the weight of the vehicle be transferred to the wheels. They didn't even move. Just the tire squished from the weight of the vehicle. The spring was so tight it wasn't even doing anything. So that is an improper shock assembly for this vehicle. I will be ordering a new set that is the correct length. That will give him full travel, correct travel, and the correct height that he wants. So Hoovie actually already gave you guys a glance of what this thing looks like in his videos, but you can't ever be done looking at a Superbird, so let's go for another round. There's the iconic front end of a Superbird. These things, when they're going down the road or actually going to the gas station or anything else, they don't get mistaken for anything else. For anybody that knows cars, they see this sitting at the parking lot. They don't say, oh, look at that old Camaro, or no, they know this is a Superbird. The paint on this is very good. It's beautiful. It has the vinyl top, which is also immaculate and very good shape. All the decals are present. They look nice and new. It has the Road Runner on it. Road Runner Superbird. Here's the rear of the Superbird. You can see it actually is a Road Runner. They just turned it into a Superbird. Let's go ahead and take a look in the trunk, or the boot. There we have a battery box with an Optima red top. There's some controls and a battery shutoff switch there. Carpet's in good shape. Very nice job back here. And let's not forget the elephant in the room, the big wang. There it is, guys. If nothing else tells you that this car is a Superbird, it is this wing right here. It's massive. It's on display. It's like, to me, it's kind of like the styling of a Lamborghini. It says, I am this or that, and I'm not ashamed to tell you that, and I don't even care what you think about it. I am this. So it says, I am a Superbird. Some of you commented in Tyler's video you didn't care for the gold wheels. Tyler loves them. They will be staying. And they do look good. They do look the part. I'm not a big fan of the gold wheels either, but they don't look bad. They definitely look the part on the car. As you can see all along as we've gone around, the paint is very nice on this vehicle. One thing we're going to be addressing while it's here is this gap. Tyler actually pointed it out. He didn't seem that looked correct. It's thin down here and it gets wider as it goes to the top. We will definitely do some adjustments on this front clip, I guess you would call it, and get it lined up a little better. So this car originally came with a 426 Hemi, of which there were only 135 out of 1,935 of these Superbirds that were ever made were a Hemi. This one's kind of a resto mod Hemi. It's got all kinds of modifications and things. It's got electronic fuel injection. It's got a upgraded belt drive system, air conditioning. You can definitely tell it's a Hemi by these giant valve covers. That was one of the hallmarks. When you seen a Hemi under the hood, it was unmistakable when you saw the valve covers. I also believe that they had two 4 barrels kind of staggered in the middle. Obviously this has one large throttle body for the fuel injection. As you can see, it doesn't have stock brakes. It has Willwoods all the way around, which is kind of an upgrade. If you're going to be going 200 miles an hour in this thing, you better have some brakes to stop. So that's definitely an upgrade worth doing on here. But all in all, it's in very good shape. It runs great. Well, we've gone over quite a bit, but let's not skip out on the interior. Let's let Mrs. Wizard do a Superbird interior review.
Welcome, ladies and gents. Hey, we're starting up here with the gauge cluster like always. We can see that odometer says 29,000 miles on it. Don't know what that's exactly right or not. 129,000, 229, not as good a condition as this thing is. Maybe it is 29,000. The gauges are really kind of a cool, simple design. We have a lot more than what we normally would do in a modern car because we don't have the systems and the digitized dashes that we do today. So they had to have one for everything. So we obviously see that fuel, the temperature. There's that oil pressure gauge that Hoovie was worried about. Simple switches over here to turn on those lights. Okay. We can turn our wipers off and on, and we can choose our washer solution as well. We look up here at the dash. It's looking amazing. That vinyl is in fabulous, fabulous condition. And it's just a lot of black. Got a little bit of wood grain here in the center, but it's got the most unusual shifter I think I've ever seen. It kind of looks like like if you had a manual saw, like you would cut like a tree with. That's kind of what that looks like there. It is a 5-speed, manual transmission. They have added a few little places here and there to go with the whole Road Runner theme right there. And if we pan over here to our door, we have a nice little sticker right over there. Otherwise, you can definitely tell this has been restored beautifully. The carpet is in great shape. Needs a vacuum, but nothing more than that. Nothing stained, nothing marked. The seats are in great condition. Obviously, we're not taking anybody anywhere because at one point this was converted to, race quality. So they've added a roll bar and taken out the back seat. It would have had one originally because you can see on the panel there that there is a small armrest with an ashtray. As we move to our ceiling, we have a very interesting light. It is it is not a touch light. I can't pop it to turn it on now. But that dome light is very, very interesting. And it does have the lovely style of light where you can click the night or day on the rear view mirror. And if we look on the back, a lot of times we used to flick those. This one goes side to side, which is kind of interesting. So it flips up if I go back and forth. As we look at some of our controls here in the dash, you can see we do have a new Kenwood radio added, and way down back over there, you'll see that there's one of the speakers. Now, back up here again, you can see we did have some controls up here, but they're no longer being used. They have added some aftermarket controls that are actually more modern. Obviously, they had to add something because AC did not come with the car originally, so we have to add that in, and they've done a pretty good job. You can see they've taken out the center portion here, which, it'll have the horn ring on it, but again, we've got to figure out where that guy goes and get him connected. One other thing that they have added is that even though this looks like a manual window knob, it's not. It goes up or it goes down. It's electric. So they have added electric window motors to our doors, which is a nice, cool feature that they didn't have very often in 1970.
So there are a few disappointing things we found on this vehicle, and we can easily fix them, obviously. But all in all, I think Hoovie did very good on this car. It is beautiful. It's very well done. We get a few things fixed up, and it's going to be right there where it needs to be. It is very, very fast. If you want to look to see what the underneath of the car looks like, check Hoovie's Garage. There's actually a video on this where me and him walk under the car and check it over. But we definitely wanted to get you guys in and let you see some of the diagnosis we've done, what we've found. Actually get to look at this thing. This thing is beautiful. It's amazing. There are not very many of these on the road at all anymore. You're more apt to see a Lamborghini Murcielago or a Diablo or something in here than to see one of these. It's very rare. Very, very rare. I've actually had a few parts guys delivering parts in here. Some older gentlemen, 40, 50, 60-year-olds. And they say, here's your parts. And then they look at the Superbird and they just drop. One guy almost dropped the parts. He was like, is that real? Like, yeah, it's a real Superbird. And then there's several explicatives after that, and they almost have a heart attack. It really is that special of a car, guys. It's beautiful. I'm very happy for Hoovie for buying it. Whatever issues we found here, we'll get them taken care of so he can get out there and enjoy this thing for what it's meant to do, and that is do burnouts and go 200 miles an hour. I hope he doesn't go 200. I don't want him to die. If you're curious what kind of tools we use to work on this Superbird, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because there's cool stuff like this coming in here every week. Thanks for watching.